Hey friends, welcome to the Strangers in Common podcast. I hope this finds you well, and if you're not well, that's okay. I'm always here for you. So we have a little cold bug that is visiting the Sticko household currently. So if I sound a little congested or nasally, my apologies. Hopefully it doesn't stick around long. So let's jump in and get to know somebody that you don't. And today we're gonna meet Nicole. All right, Nicole, thank you for joining me today. So let's go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, I am Nicole. I have known you since I was 14 years old,
Yep.
a Skyview alumni. And so, I guess just a quick introduction about myself, and then you can roll with what you want to roll with. Um, I have four gorgeous sons. They range in age from 26 to 2. So I got one in every category, an adult, a teenager, oh god, a teenager, a 6-year old and a 2-year old, which, that's the COVID baby.
Right.
He is the baby that is just like I know you've seen those memes where there's like they're on a whole different level than I've ever seen. This kid is crazy.
I've seen the memes. I've seen his pictures. He's adorable. So
Thank you.
I
Thank
mean,
you. Yeah, they're all
um,
sitting in the living room with no pants on right now. I don't know if that's just what they like to do, but that's what they do.
maybe that's just what boys do. I have girls, so my girls don't sit around with pants on. So I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure.
Yeah. So
Um, so has that been hard with pretty much four different generations?
they have all come at different times. My oldest, I was 16 when I had him, and I credit him for saving my life in many ways. Um, so I was a sophomore when I got pregnant, and at that point, freshman year, I think I just started really getting into ditching school and smoking weed, drinking. I wasn't like an excessive drinker, but I did, partake in festivities.
Right.
And I think I was just heading down that path where school just wasn't an interest to me. So I credit my son for saving my life. If I wouldn't have gotten pregnant, I wouldn't have graduated high school, and I definitely wouldn't be where I am today. So
Well, and that's a plus. So
it's
that you even graduated while you were pregnant is something that I know a lot of people don't do. So you
Oh,
know,
I busted my butt to get there. I ended up, and I'm so proud of myself. I ended up having to take summer school. So as soon as I found out, I took summer school classes. I knew that he was supposed to be due in October, and
right,
he came in September. So I went to my counselor and was like, "This is what I'm doing." I bought 4 classes of summer school with my own money because I worked. So I bought 4 classes of summer school, and I took the first semester off my junior year, and then. I had to end up doing night school senior year, and I did end up graduating with a cord and a 3.0 and an 18-month old.
wow. So what was some of the struggles you had after he was born, trying to juggle school and parenthood?
So I never really started college. I just by the time well, I did start college right after high school. I think I had maybe a couple weeks off, and then there was this program that I had enrolled in, and it was supposed to like pique your interest and get you to stay on that course, but the campus life was so distracting to me. Having that little bit of freedom, getting away from the high school crowds, and
Right,
I eventually just I couldn't do it. College was not for me. I've never finished college, so I just started working.
and it's not for everybody. I definitely know that. So I have a little bit, not much, but
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. It was like,
Ah,
let's go work.
I think I'm doing
Uh,
all right.
right. So now, when you had your second child, how did your oldest take that information? Because there's how big of a gap is there?
So he was, oh God, if he's 26 and 14, what's the math on that? Like 14 years,
12,
12, okay,
12
so
years,
12 years. So
something like that.
yeah, and at that point, right, my math, I went, um, at that point, Anthony didn't live with me full time. I moved around a lot, and I just at that point didn't feel like it was a stable environment for him. So he was living
Okay.
with my parents, and he's a grandma's boy anyway, a papa's boy. So
Right.
we always we always joke that. So I have one brother, and I'm the oldest, and so we always joke that Anthony is my parents' third child. So like me and my brother got matching tattoos, sibling tattoos. So mine says one of two, and his says two of two. And we told Anthony, "Hey, aunts, why don't you get three of two? Because it's
Right.
just the running thing. Like, he's their other child."
Right.
Um. So yeah, he didn't live with us. And it just and I didn't make him because my three younger children's dad is abusive. It's been a very
Okay.
yeah, it's been a very tumultuous relationship, whatever,
Right.
um, that I still deal with the other kids too. And so I didn't feel it was best for Ants to live with us. But he, and especially now, like the difference between the other two and him, it's just such a big gap that he loves his brothers, but yeah, whatever.
Right. Was it hard on you not being around him all the time?
I mean, yes and no. I think I was so caught up in the abusive relationship part that it didn't bother me as much as it probably should have. I mean,
Right.
I knew he was safe. I did see him. It's not like it's not like we had cut ties. I'm really close with my parents, so we're around each other all the time. So
Right.
I still see him. Like I mean, not so much now. He's an adult, but
Yeah, they tend to disappear a little bit as they get older, so
yeah.
I
So,
get it. My oldest is 26, so we hear from her, sporadically.
yeah, he calls me when he has a nightmare or a panic attack or mommy, I have a job interview but
Right. Yeah, they don't drop that even as they get older, so that's always kind of
right.
a plus. Now with your middle two kids, so one's 14 and the other one is how old? I'm
14.
sorry, I am so bad at
That's
my
okay.
memory's terrible.
14, 6 and 2.
14, 6, and 2. So now the 14-year-old, um, I know he the one that's been struggling lately?
Yes.
Okay.
So
So if you want to talk about that, because I know that's a pretty fresh subject.
absolutely. And I mean, I'm all for supporting mental health awareness because it is so important for these kids. I mean, I tell him all the time, son, I do not know what you have to go through in school because we didn't have to deal with any of that.
Right.
My son has, and I completely, I know that it's not my fault per se, but I completely blame myself for putting him in situations that have not always been healthy. And we are super close, and he he has always struggled with his identity and his where he belongs. He did come out in the fourth grade, which is amazing. He is
Right.
an amazing person, and so to know that factor of who he is I always say, son, you're ahead of the game.
Right.
so
Yeah.
so he's always struggled with that because his dad, I wouldn't say is necessarily homophobic, but is questionable on some of his beliefs, if that makes
Gotcha.
any kind of sense.
Yeah, not super accepting
But
of that
at
kind
the
of stuff.
same time, he is like,
Right.
it's the weirdest thing. I don't know how to explain it. So he's
It
always been kind of afraid to let that part of him go around his dad. And so he was in and out of our lives obviously a couple of times because
right.
kids along the way. But um, he, the last couple of years, have been really hard. So 2020 obviously was rough for everybody for the
Yep.
pandemic. And then also, that's when I was pregnant with the baby. And I had a really hard pregnancy. I've never had a pregnancy like that. My placenta wasn't getting blood flow to the baby. And so
Oh wow.
so he was born prematurely and was 3 pounds, 15 ounces. And I actually was hospitalized for 28 days during that time. Prior to that, though, in May of 2020, his dad was shot 8 times. Um,
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, so he he was shot 8 times. I was on the phone with him. We were arguing and fight. Well, we were arguing and fighting the week before, so he wasn't here at the house, and he was walking to 7-Eleven, and we were on the phone talking. And I'm the way that I remember it, just because he was in the middle of his sentence, somebody had to come up behind him and shoot him behind from behind,
Oh wow.
and I heard all of it, and all I heard was and all I can think of was it sounded like he was on railroad tracks because of the way that it was echoing. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And he's like, Nicole, I was shot. And I thought he was lying until he started screaming. And I'm like, oh
Right.
my God, like what is going on? And so Elias heard that. Elias is my 14.
Oh wow.
So Elias heard it because I guess I was on speakerphone. I didn't remember that until he told me. And so dealing with that and me trying to deal with taking care of him, and because it was 2020, no one was allowed to go to the hospital at that point until later on.
Right.
And so I would go every day, 2 times a day, to drop him food off at the hospital. And so like he had to pick up where I was slacking in regards to Isaiah's at the time was 4. um and I'm dealing with my pregnancy complications, ultrasounds every week. It's like it was just a lot to deal with in 2020.
Right.
By the end of 2020, 2021, he started cutting, and he I kind of was like, okay, what's going on? Like I didn't know if it was something serious, if it was like a phase, like we were trying to figure out where it was.
Right.
I got counselors involved at the school, and they got therapists it was from Community Reach that was partnering with his school. So he was
Oh
able to,
nice.
yeah, he was able to do that, but it wasn't like a every day or even an every week thing. It was like once in every blue moon. So then by October of 2022, um, he just kind of started withdrawing again. And I do blame a lot of it on social media. Like he says, Mom, it's not it. It's not it. And I'm like, yeah, I notice a difference when he's constantly in his phone and when I take it away from him. So
Right.
at that point, he was really into his phone and he was really feeling down. The day that I took him to the hospital was a day where it was like right before it was October, so it was like right before like a break, and we were talking about Christmas or something like that, and we were in the car, and he goes, "You know what you can get me for Christmas? You can get me a gun." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, that way I can shoot myself." And
Oh geez.
and I was like, what? And I'm like, and I didn't know if he was just playing, because there's a lot of times where he like, oh, I wish I was dead kind of thing. And it's like like that teenage thing. Like we all have done it. We've all said those kinds of things, but it really bothered me this time. And like the week, maybe a couple of days before that he said that, there was a kid at the school who airdropped a message talking about um, something along the lines of take cover and hide because shots will be fired.
Oh geez.
Oh, right. And so I'm like, son, you got to explain to me what that's like, because we didn't have that. The worst we had was somebody pulled the fire alarm every day that
Right.
we ditch and go do whatever. I said, so I don't know what that feels like. I don't know. You got to explain it to me. And he's like, the only thing I was thinking of is how am I going to, I'm not running to hide. I got to go get my brother. Cause they go to the same school. So
Right.
um it's just like it was crazy. So I called my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I don't know what to do. I don't know if he's serious. I don't know if it's just because it's a hormonal thing, because he's 13 and he's going through a lot. If it's the airdrop thing, I said, I don't know what to do. She's like, well, give him a choice. She's like, tell him, like, this is serious. Do we have to lock you, take you for a hold, or are you going to be okay? And so I sat him down. His dad was there. Primarily, it was me talking because he responds better to me. And so I said, Elias, this is what we need to do. We need to make this decision. And I'm leaving it up to you. Are you okay? Or do you need to seek help? And he said, I need to seek help. So I took him, and it was the most surreal moment. Like, I mean, with each kid, I've had to deal with some kind of trauma. Um,
Right.
but this was just like, it was weird to see, like, they strip him down, and it's like a jail. Like, they take his laces from him. They made him cut the string out of his sweats. They took his everything. They take everything from him, anything that could cause him harm. And he was there, and I mean, he's doing better now. Still, some
Yeah.
days I don't know if it's hormonal or if it's, you know, the depression, but he is on medication. He is on a
Oh, that's
vitamin,
good.
yeah, he is on a vitamin D supplement because it was critically low, and they were like, vitamin D does play a lot into your mental health, and so
That's why they tell you to get some sun.
right, definitely makes a difference. So he's on vitamin D right now. He goes to counseling every 2 weeks, and he's doing better, but I still
And
say a
that's
lot of it is that social media.
and it very possibly could be. So one of my girls attempted, suicide, and they ended up putting her pretty much in the same thing. She was, at Children's for a while in a room with basically nothing in it but a blanket and didn't really have much else in there and had to do that. So I definitely understand it's nerve wracking, even being there, seeing them like that. So
Right. Yeah, and he would get to call or whatever, and he'd be like, "Mom, this isn't what I thought it was going to be." I'm like, "What did you think it was going to be, like camp? Like, this is
right.
serious. Like, you got everyone involved now, son. Like, this isn't. You can't play games like this. So you said the magic word, and we're getting you help." But he's doing better than where he was in October. So
Well, that's good. And he responds well to counseling and everything like that. Like it's not where he's pushing it up,
no, he actually has a counselor that he really likes. He says he feels really comfortable with her, and he's able to. I see a difference from when he goes in and then when he comes out. Like he's lit up. His face is bright and
Nice.
shiny, and so it definitely helps him. And he is learning coping skills. So
Oh, good. So now with your younger two, obviously you had the issues with the pregnancy. What other issues have you had with them since they're younger and your other two are older and there's
yeah,
that kind of gap?
yeah. So even okay, so like I was saying, each kid had some kind of traumatic thing. With my oldest, his dad died when he was 9, and he had
Okay.
cancer his senior year of high school.
Oh
Elias,
wow.
right? Elias, witnessed the domestic violence and is going through this mental
Right.
health, whatever you want to call it, issue, crisis, learning coping mechanisms.
Right.
With Isaiah, he's the 6 year old. He is my emotional cancer. He is a straight cancer sign. Like he has a heart of gold, but he cries for everything. But he's like a jock. Like he all he wants to do is play sports, watch sports, and watch TV. Have some kind of
Right.
gadget in his hand or some kind of. He's the technology kid. He knew how to work a Kindle when he was, I don't know, it was like 18 months. I think he got his first Kindle.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's definitely the technology kid. He doesn't. He didn't really see the violence to the extent of Elias. He did see a couple of things, but not like Elias. And he doesn't always feel comfortable with his dad. Um, like he'll tell me, "Mom, don't tell dad that." And I'm like, "Son, you can do what you need to do. If you need to not tell him, that's your choice." And I'd always just try to tell him that, you know, he needs to be vocal and express his feelings. The baby, he doesn't, he's definitely a mama's boy, but he knows a different version of his dad than, let's say,
Right.
Elias, because they know him. Well, the baby knows him as disabled because he doesn't have the use of his arm from when he got shot, and so
Oh, wow.
yeah, so he knows him as like the disabled, person who has a nurse come every day, kind of
Right.
thing. And so um, he's just, I don't know, he's my little angel, but he definitely is a mama's boy. So
So now, and I wanted to ask, he had a band that he wore around his head for a while.
oh yeah, okay, oh
What was that for?
so because he was a preemie, and I think it was the way that he was sitting. I think he was just sitting in an awkward position inside my uterus. When he
Oh,
came out, because he was a preemie, he had to do all kinds of things: occupational therapy, physical therapy.
oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, because he missed out on 6 weeks of being in utero. So you have to learn certain reflexes and certain things. So with his head, his helmet, he had I can't remember what it's called now, but basically his head was crooked and flat on one side, and the
Oh, okay.
pressure of the where he would lay, because he had it's called torticollis, and it's like where he only favored one side of his neck, when the other side of his neck wasn't as strong of where it needed to be, so he would favor his left side and would constantly want to lay on that side. So the pressure was pushing his face forward, and was just, I had to fight to get that helmet. I did. Probably should have gotten one for Isaiah's too. My poor baby has a flat head too, but um, but with the baby, it was really bad and really noticeable. And yeah, he had it on for, I think it was almost a year and a half that he had it. If he would have gotten
Wow.
it when he was younger, and if his pediatrician would have listened to me, he probably would have only had to have it like a few months when his
Oh,
head
but
was
since they
super
caught it
soft.
later, he had to have it
Yeah,
on longer.
exactly.
Gotcha. And then I know your Isaiah's right is right now struggling as well with his hair. I just saw.
Oh my god, yes. So he has really long hair. It goes, when I wash it and it's long, I mean wet, it goes down to like the top of his butt. Like it's so long, it's so curly, it's so beautiful. It's a pain in the ass to wash and comb, but it's beautiful. And so he loves his hair. He takes really great pride in it, but there's so many, and oddly enough, it's adult women who call him a female. Like we just went to the zoo earlier this week, and he was walking out and he looked at the price of something, and we were in the gift shop, and he goes, "Oh my god, $45." And the lady walking in was like, "Oh, she knows." And I was like, "Did she just call my son a girl?" Like
Right.
and she just looked at me and just kept walking. I was like, what is wrong with these people? Like, he doesn't have girl features. He doesn't, I'm like, he wears boy clothes. I'm like, all they see is long hair, a braid and long hair. And that's all they see. So he gets so frustrated every day. He's like, Mom, I just want to cut my hair. I'm like, son, if that's really what you want to do, I will do it. But I'm feeling like you're going to maybe have some regrets about it. And he's like,
Right.
no. Then he'll kind of just, he like, go through and I love my hair. I don't want to cut it. And okay. Then he's like, well, maybe
So
cut it like Elias. And
right. So if you thought maybe just cutting a little bit off and see how it feels, or
I thought about doing like an undercut, like a shave his sides and underneath,
okay,
and leave it long still, and just maybe try to braid it, just like one braid, and make it look a little more masculine, which is stupid. But
yeah. I mean, however he wants to wear his hair should be
right.
however he wants to wear his
That's what
hair.
I tell him
Like,
all the time. I'm like, son, there are so many people that have long hair. Like, it's just ridiculous. Maybe I'll just start putting a fake mustache on him so that they know.
I mean, there's plenty of people with guys with long hair that don't necessarily have to have the facial hair, you know. And I know everyone was kind of posting pictures for you of like Troy Polamalu and Jason Momoa and all that. Like, there's plenty of
I know. And I show him all the time. I'm like, son, look, here's some more. Look, and I show him all the time. But that's where
it's
I'm afraid for him, because he is such a, Like I think he's an empath because he just feels so deeply. Like he still sees the beauty of things. Like he is so
Right.
untainted still. He doesn't know what dating is. He doesn't know what any kind of sexual anything is. He doesn't know what kissing is or boyfriend girlfriends are. Like he doesn't know any of that. And I cherish it. But at the same time, I am so fearful because I feel like people are going to take advantage of him. And I'm trying to teach him to toughen up just a little bit, but I just don't want to tarnish him yet. Just,
Right. No, I get that.
oh, he's just a sweetheart, but he's just. I'm like, son. I go. Well, start saying something like, "Hey, you can't. I'm not." Well, when he was younger, I taught him to say, "I'm not a girl. I have a penis." Now he's. I won't say that, mom. I won't say that. Well, I was like, well, at least say you're a boy.
Right. So now with the relationship with their dad, you said it was abusive and stuff. So I guess the question is, what made you stay with it or keep going back to it?
So they say statistically, it takes 7 times before a woman will leave their abuser or before a victim leaves their abuser. And I think when we first started dating, it was just a new experience. And I just was so in love, or whatever you want to call it. And
Right.
I always compare it to like an addiction because I became addicted to trying to fix it. And I became addicted to, like, I just want my family. And I became addicted to, but I love you and I've done this for you and I do this. And I just became this person that I didn't recognize. I would do things that were just not in my character, but they became who I was. And I don't know. I don't know why I stayed for as long as I did. And even now, like, I am not with him, but he is still living in my house.
Oh wow.
And it's so horrible sometimes. And I just, because I tell him all the time, I'm like, you don't bring me peace. You got to go. Like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not in a good spot for me or the boys. And I just have no peace. And
So when you weren't with him, did that, if you had relationships outside from that one, did it did it affect those at all?
I have not had any relationships with anybody since I've met him in 2007.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I look at it now, all these opportunities that I've missed, and it makes me so angry with myself. All these people that wanted to take me out and do these things and these nice things and buy me flowers, and I look at all those people and I see them, and I at one point I'm like, okay, you guys are getting married, so I actually helped you find your forever person. But
Right.
but at the same time, I'm like, I could have possibly been that person getting married and having that life that I wanted. And it just I just missed my opportunity so many times because I was so caught up in him. And I would find myself doing things like the first time he left me, I was like, okay, I'm going to move to this place because I know he'll move in with me. And he did.
Right.
He in fact did. And every time he would leave, I would start to get back on my feet. And it was almost like he knew that I was doing well for myself. And then he would come back in and it was like a little Tasmanian devil. And then we'd be broken up again, kid thrown in there and broken up. And it was just our cycle. It was just our pattern.
Right. So do you feel, I don't want to word it the wrong way, but do you feel now almost obligated for him to be there since like the kids are there and that shooting happened?
It's absolutely an obligation at this point. And I've told him that. And I said, because his family is horrible. I tell him all the time, I don't know what it feels like because my family is amazing. Like we've had some bad moments in my family, but overall, I have parents who love me. I have parents who are supportive. Me and my dad text every day. Me and my mom talk every day. And so if they need something, I help them. If I need something, they help me. And his parents are not like that. They aren't. They're just not that supportive. And I say,
Gotcha.
it's like um they've also had turmoil in their life and they're abusive, or they don't know how to properly love a child. And he was at one point living with his grandmother, but she passed away in he actually moved out. I was able to get him out in like 2021. And
Oh,
then his grandma died in May of 2022, and he's been back ever since. And I just tell him, this is not a permanent thing. We're not starting a family. We're not. He sleeps on my couch. It's just. But he
right.
knows that he is like, I'm paying for his life, and part of the obligation is because he does have a nurse that comes every day. I just know that he has nowhere to get his wound care.
Gotcha. So is that something that he needs the rest of his life then?
I always tell him he needs to go check to see, because so what, he has a hole in his back from where the surgeon cut. It's called an eloser flap, and basically what they did is they cut out ribs, and then they pulled muscle from, right, they broke pulled yeah, so he's missing ribs in his back. So they pulled muscle from his back down to the bottom of his lung to seal the hole that was essentially making him cough up blood.
Right.
So he's had that for since August of 2020, and he still has a hole. I mean, the hole
Yeah,
is, so it has to be stuffed, and the hole it's like significantly smaller, but the incision part of it, he has a hole, like he can breathe out of his back.
that's weird.
It's so weird.
You would think they would close that up, but I mean, I'm not a doctor or
I
anything,
don't know
so
either. I tell him all the time he needs to go and ask the surgeon if they can graft some skin or something. Like, I mean, how are you, like, that means you'll never be able to go swimming because you could essentially drown from the hole in your back.
right, right. That's
So
yeah, that's super weird.
it's
Um, so, and one of the other things I really wanted to talk to you about was um the passing of Rachel.
my dear best friend.
Yeah, she was close with a lot of people, so, and I know that was a really tough one for you.
I've actually lost a lot of my best friends. I mean, Anthony's dad passed away in 2005.
Right.
Um, Rachel passed. I have a best friend that didn't go to school with us. He passed in 2020. That one kills
Oh
me.
wow.
Yeah, and then yeah, and like I'm like, okay, well, I guess best friends can't. And then Sean passed away. Um, and I just, yeah, with Rachel, I miss her every day. Like, I'm like, oh, I wish she used to watch Elias for me when he was little, and like they were super close. So that was his auntie Rachel, and I look back on it, and everything. I firmly believe everything happens for a reason, and I was just lucky enough to spend the last week of her life with her. I spent the night at her house. We went to the Vanilla Ice concert. We celebrated her son's birthday. Like, we did all these things, and it's just it shocks me still to this day that she's not here. We were supposed to grow old together.
Right. Yeah. Hey, yeah. I mean, she was young. It shocked a lot of people when they got the news. Did it? Did did her or any of them really passing that young affect you negatively at all?
No, I mean, I've had a lot of close deaths with me for I'm sorry, not with me, but I have a lot of close deaths
I
happen
got you.
around me, because like family members, and um so I don't think it affected me negatively, but it does bring me down that I just don't always have that support system like I once had.
Right. No, and that makes perfect sense. Um, man, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
We're talking about Rachel.
Yeah. Um, so do you find because they were so close when they passed, do you have trouble getting close to more people because of that?
Um, I think I have trouble getting close to people because I am such a homebody. I've been working from home for the last 6 years, and so I don't. leave my house. I don't go out. I think being in the relationship that I was in has made it hard for me to meet people because, even the friends that I have now, they don't want to come around like that. When we're not
Right.
together, I have like family game nights and dinners and people come over and watch the football game, and I don't have that when he's around. So I think there's a couple of factors why I don't necessarily meet people. I'm trying to get better at that because I'm gonna stop living my life in fear and I'm gonna start living my life for me. I've missed so much time, and I think that's part of.
Right.
I wasted so much of my life, and I wasted so much. I have a lot of regrets, and I just don't want to have that going into my future.
And that's the next thing I was going to ask you. How do you find your happiness after all this? Like, do you have a plan to do that, or is it kind of, well, let's see what happens?
So, up until recently, I have really been struggling. I'm just this angry. I'm not going to say I'm not anymore, but I am this angry person. I am this, and not necessarily angry at him, but angry at myself because I've damaged my children. I've severed relationships and like friends and family. I've put this person before a lot of that, and I feel like I didn't get anything back but heartache and turmoil and bruises and scars and damaged property and just so much anger. And now coming into this year, I was like I said, I was like, forget it. Like, I'm not going to keep staying in my room and just being holed up in my room. I'm going to start doing new things. And it started, I got a new job. I actually start in a couple of, or start April 3rd. So that was a big relief because now I'll be making way more money than I was, and I can start pursuing dreams of buying a house or finding some place better to live than where I'm at now. And
Right.
um I joined a gym. So I'm like, okay, next I need to work on my mental. So I got my new job. I'm working on my body, now. And not to say that my body is bad because my doctor just my doctor just said I'm going to live a long healthy life because I'm really healthy, and I'm like, "Oh,
Well, good.
okay. Great." And so I just my next is my mental health, and I'm just trying to get out of my comfort zone of hiding in my room, and now I need to start going out more. And I don't care if it's just like I'm going to start going to the movies by myself, or if, have a meal by myself just to get away from this environment.
I'll call it right now. My wife is going to tell me I really want to be friends with Nicole. I'll tell you after she listens to this. I'll guarantee it.
Well, give her my
um,
number, give her my Facebook, whatever.
so now, have you done counseling at all?
No, no, I
No.
haven't. Unless you count what we used to do in high school, with new choices.
Well, I mean, yeah,
No, huh?
I- maybe the edge of counseling.
Right.
Um,
But no, and I know my son always tells me, "Mom, I tell my counselor you need counseling." And I'm like, "I'm sure you're right, son." Like, I'm pretty sure I have PTSD in several forms. But
so why haven't you seeked it out?
I think because I make an excuse that I have so much going on with the kids that I don't have time for myself. And I know that that's a bunch of crap because I could do Zoom. There's so many ways that you can do counseling now. And
Right.
I don't think I'm ready to not be mad, if that makes any kind of sense. Like I am, but I don't know
It
how to explain it. Like I'm not ready to let go of my anger because I feel like right now it's pushing me to be better.
so I can tell you from when I was going to counseling that it doesn't necessarily make you give up your anger because it's something you don't like. That's there. That's gonna be there. You can figure out why it's there or whatever, but it doesn't make you get rid of it. Um, I'll also tell you we've been talking about 40 minutes, so I mean, pretty sure you could probably squeeze that in somewhere.
Don't say that out
I'm
loud.
just I'm just saying. But no, I mean it definitely is not there to be like, oh, don't be angry. It teaches you basically why it's okay to have that emotion and then how to properly handle it.
And I think a lot of it for myself is, like I said, I believe everything happens for a reason. I believe we're going to end up where we're meant to be. And I think the reason why I stayed so long and had these three beautiful children with him was because they are meant to be here. Like my
Right.
greater purpose for myself was for them, actually, that they are going to do something amazing. And I'm not saying that
Oh,
I'll,
and I'm sure they will.
I'm sure that they will. Like one of them is going to do something. And it's not saying that Ants won't either. He's a good kid. But um like these three, there's a reason that they're here. And they complete my heart. My four boys are my four chambers.
That's awesome. That's awesome to think like that. Um, you got anything else you want to throw out there before we wrap it up? Any
Um,
funny stories or jokes or
I
anything?
mean, I mean, I can tell lots of stories about the boys. I don't know, like the baby. I don't know. I started recording him when we're waiting for Isaiah's to get out of school, and God, that kid is just so funny. Um, so we were talking to my dad
One
yesterday.
day,
Huh?
one day he's gonna look back at that and hate you for that. You know that, right?
Oh, that's okay. They're gonna get real mad at me. I haven't told them yet. I took pictures of them all today because like I said, they're all just wearing shirts and no pants. So I took pictures of all three of them and posted it to Facebook. So what is
Oh,
wrong
lovely.
with these kids? Like, why? Oh, so they're gonna be mad at me no matter what. So I might as well have a little fun.
Right.
I just think it's so weird
Anyways,
how different they are compared to how we were when we were kids. Like I see this lady, I don't remember what her name is, and she's always talking about the Gen Xers and about how we took care of ourselves. And I'm like, not that, that Elias couldn't take care of himself. He's 14. He knows how to cook. He knows how to, but like my younger two, like those kids are I try. I promise you I try. like, I'm like, son, how do you not know how to rub in lotion? I'm like, why are you using
right.
your fingertips? Use your whole hand. Oh yeah, I'm hoping that that baby O will be far more advanced than Zay and some of that stuff. I'm like, oh,
They're just
they're just so
they're
different.
just keeping you sharp. That's all.
Oh god. And being this old, having a 2-year-old is exhausting.
Yeah, I can't even imagine because my youngest is going to be 18 next year, and we're like, nope, nope.
Yeah. I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, oh my God. Like, I remember there would be times where I'm getting up in the middle of the night and I'm like, why did I do this? He's getting up and I'm like trying to sleep and I have insomnia
Right.
anyway. I'm like, oh, I was just falling asleep. But in all reality, they keep me like they're my sanity. Like they drive me crazy. They're a bunch of funny guys and the baby's obsessed now with going to the zoo to see T-Rexes. I'm like, son, they don't have T Rexes there. Why? Well, they just don't. We'll go to the museum. Okay.
Right.
And everything is it's so cute. He finds like me and him in everything. So if he's playing with like toys, he'll be like, "Oh, this is you, mom," and I'm like, "Oh, that's me. Yeah, this is me." And I'm like, "Okay, well, what are we doing?" And he has a really good little imagination, but everything's me and him. Or, "Oh, that's Zay. Oh, that's Elias." Okay.
Well, hopefully he keeps that imagination, you know, for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. That and he likes to sing, so
Nice. Very
he's
nice.
actually, you know what's amazing about him is that he actually loves music and he loves classical music and we literally have to watch Fantasia every night before he falls asleep. But it I love it because it's classical and it's, good for the
Right. There could be worse movies to fall asleep to, that's for sure.
Oh, Anthony was stuck on Titanic for months. every day we had to watch Titanic. I'm like, son, this is a 3-hour movie. Mom, can we watch
Right?
Jack and Rose? And I'm like, oh,
You're like, oh, it's not anything
no,
else.
no, please. Oh, the tape is broken, son. Sorry.
Right.
That's when they were on tape. There was no
Yep.
DVD.
Yep. It was the two VHS
Yep.
set
Yep.
because that movie was so long.
It was so long.
Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up there. Thank you so much for talking with me. I appreciate it immensely.
Of course. Anytime.
And then we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay, thank you guys so much for joining me for another episode. Remember, you can find me on the socials, Sticko Podcast, STICO Podcast, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Email me at stickopodcast@gmail.com if you want to be on the show, any feedback, stuff like that. And remember to like and subscribe on wherever you listen to. Just helps me out, see who's listening. Plus, you never miss an episode. So, with that, hopefully now we all have a little more in common. So, until next time, be safe and don't be a stranger.